Today, we're looking at a brown ink by Herbin Terre de Feu. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below so that if you are only interested in certain parts, you can skip around, but if you've got the time, please check out the entire video. Also, you can follow me over on Instagram, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Jinhao 51A, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of the writing sample, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, more papers are tested, and they'll show up a bit later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it's not giving any shading. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading going on, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some very nice shading, 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show color variation, and we got it in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer quite a few spots of shading, 17 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still quite a few spots of shading, 27 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we do get it in the writing. And Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading, absolutely available, 14 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still very nice shading, 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we get that in the writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see here why this ink has such good shading. We see that it's got this kind of grayish tone, and as it pushes up, we do see a purple come in right at the very top of that grayish tone. It's also forming a line very immediately, showing some permanence that this ink is going to have, which is not a normal thing for Herbin. There is a little bit of a water separation before we start getting this kind of orange. It's a light orange, and then the red at the top. Very complex ink, giving it so much very nice shading. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And all of that grayish tone is absolutely at the bottom in place, and most all of that purple is there. Now I'm not sure if it's going to come through on camera, but I do see a little bit of that purple that has pushed up. Now we get a little bit of water separation, a light bit of that orange, and then the red again, showing us how complex this ink truly is. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it's the lowercase h, that blowout that's occurring right there that would make me not want to use this in a note-taking situation if I want to be able to go back and highlight. Now, water is lifting all of those darkest tones, but all of the grays that we saw in the chromatographies are still very much there, bonded with the paper. But they do not bond with your feed or your converter because water completely removed it from my pen without a problem. you do see that pen flush is breaking down that gray that's in the paper quite a bit. You also see that it's discoloring it some. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Herbin Terre de Feu has a viscosity of 2.28, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Herbin Terre de Feu has an average dry time of 18 seconds, making it still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Herbin Terre de Feu, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice turquoise here, and I chose Diamine's Aqua Lagoon. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia and white lines paper. Here we're looking at the yellow Rhodia paper, not looking for performance change, but really for tone change. And that's because this was such a complex ink in everything that was in it that I was really curious what it might do to the writing itself. And I'm honestly a little surprised that it had almost no effect. Now, on the medium, it had no effect. On the scrubbies, I don't see any kind of effect. The most noticeable difference that I see is in the 1.1. There seems to be a lightening up of the tone in the stub, so where it's thickest. And the difference that's going on in the extra fine is very minor, but it does seem to be there, especially when you look at the F, the dash, and the word the. Look at the darkest parts, and it seems to be just a little bit lighter on the yellow paper. It's interesting. White lines paper with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It offers just a couple spots of shading. The extra fine is just a little lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It too offers some spots of shading with 5 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone, maybe a tad darker than the extra fine, but not as dark as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it offers shading, and it's shading on a very absorbent paper, this white lines paper. It's not really made for fountain pens. 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we got it in the writing. And that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Herbin's Terre de Feu? Well, the swab looked a little magenta leaning, but the writing did go down brown. Now, I also experienced a few hard start issues in a Jinhao 51A and had to switch pens in order to get through my day of writing with this ink. This wasn't a consistent problem, but that's a problem I haven't had with that pen. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? To avoid the magenta tone, you want to use a medium to wet pen. And when I got it working, I really did enjoy the look of this ink from a medium flow Jinhao. But that one still wound up with its own issues from time to time. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.